Hey guys, welcome back to another Flesh and Blood video. This video is proudly brought to you by the House of Cards, the official sponsor of my stream. Be sure to check out the link in the description below for all of your Flesh and Blood needs. As most of you guys know, I don't do deck tech videos very often, but I've been playing this Emberblade file list recently, and it looks really good. In a world without Lexi, I really think that Emberblade Fai has a chance to shine. Dromai, Bravo, Azalea, and Dashio are all four decks that are going to be very popular in a post-Lexi world, and I think that Fai has game into all of those decks. I'm going to take a look at every single card and talk about which matchups I think they shine in and which matchups they feel lackluster in. Let's jump into the action. Let's start off by talking about our main deck equipment suite. To start off with, we have Searing Emberblade as our weapon. That's basically the entire premise behind the deck. We're not playing Kodachis, we're actually on Emberblade. It is worth noting that I really like Mask of the Pouncing Lynx into almost, I would say almost every matchup. Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, I think, is better served in this style of deck, as to where Mask of Momentum plays better into Kodachi style build, but Mask of the Pouncing Lynx serves as a 6 to 8 point attack generally that we can go to help fuel our aggro game plan. Flamecall Furnace is a great card that, like, honestly, most games just blocks for 3, but Flamecall Furnace does occasionally give us the value that we need by actually being able to, like, pitch a red to play a Flamecall Awakening and get a Phoenix Flame and then have 2 extra resources floating around that can actually make our turn function. Tiger Stripe Shuko has become it's become like a staple in almost every single ninja deck that you see played. Tiger Stripe Shuko plays really well with Phoenix Flame, Lava Burst, Salt the Wound, cards like that to really help make sure that, one, we have damage that can't be prevented, which is very good into anything with Ward. It's very good into some of the new dash items, Prism, things like that. So Tiger Stripe Shuko looks to be a mainstay in this deck. And then Old Faithful Snapdragons. If Ninja ever got a better leg piece, we'd probably play it, but Snapdragon Scalers looks to be our main focus for right now. Let's start off by talking about Blaze Headlong. Blaze Headlong being a 0 for 4 that almost always has go again. We're playing 45 reds in our deck, so in our main deck, so there's basically like always a way to have this turned on. There aren't many times you won't have this turned on, and a 0 for 4 at go again, it's too good not to be played. Brahma Cinderclaw is basically a head jab, but it does have some upside where it can turn a Ravenous Rabble or an Enlightened Strike into a Draconic Chain Link, which allows us to activate our Fai ability just a little bit easier. We're playing this at blue and red. It is worth noting that this is the only blue 2 block I have in my list, as I value blue 3 blocks very highly in the current metagame right now. Enlightened Strike is an amazing card. It's been a staple of the game since it was printed, and it allows us to use our extra Phoenix Flames to get extra value and make sure that we're getting all the value out of our Phoenix Flames that we can over the course of the game. Flamecall Awakening is a card that lets us go get our Phoenix Flame. Being a 1 for 3 is really not that impressive, but when you pair this with an Art of War, this card quickly turns into a 1 for 6, 4 points off of this, and then 2 points off of the Phoenix Flame that we go and get from our deck. Lava Burst. Lava Burst is probably one of the best cards in the deck. This card is a 0 for 5, a 0 for 6 with Shuko, and it also blocks 3, which gives it an insane amount of value. Lava Vein Loyalty is the next card on our docket. I like this card because it's a 0 for 3 with conditional go again that's met pretty fairly most of the time. I also like it because it's a 3 block. Being a blue 3 block and also having a few of them at red gives me more consistency trying to play the mid-range games against other ninjas or Command and Conquer effects or just any card that I might need to block. Mounting Anger is a really good card. This card is just a 1 for 4, potentially a 1 for 5. Play this at the right time and you make your opponent's hand very awkward. This is also normally a card that eats a lot of equipment early on in the game. Next, we're going to talk about Phoenix Flame. I kind of laugh when I say that because what is there to talk about? Phoenix Flame is the mainstay of actually playing Fai over Katsu. That and you get all the Draconic attacks. Phoenix Flame is a 3 of in this deck because I really like being able to go get it off of Flamecall Awakening and utilizing Flamecall Awakening to make Enlightened Strike a better card. Ravenous Rabble. Now, if you've watched enough of my streams, you know that Ravenous Rabble basically says 0 for 2 with go again for me. Ravenous Rabble is generally a 0 for 4 with go again and can be paired really well with Brahma Cinderclaw to actually make this a Draconic Chain Link. Next up to talk about is Rise from the Ashes. Rise from the Ashes is a card that has come in and out of popularity with the Fai deck over time depending on what is so important to play against in the metagame. Rise from the Ashes has a lot of value, allowing us to get extra Phoenix Flames from our yard and allowing us to buff our first Draconic or Ninja action that we're actually going to play during the turn. Now, with that in mind, Rise from the Ashes really sees a lot of play in Iyslander, as it allows you to get an extra card and add 3 more points to the board, and that's something that you really value against Iyslander. Rising Resentment is also a card that has a lot of value against Iyslander. Rising Resentment is a 0 for 3, but its on-hit effect is actually pretty cool into Iyslander because it can actually negate a single Frostbite if this card hits. A good Iyslander player will almost always block this card if it's relevant to their turn. It's also worth noting that Rising Resentment can reduce the cost of certain cards and make Flamecall Awakening or Mounting Anger cost 0 in a good spot for you. Ronin Renegade is actually just a Draconic 0 for 3 with Go Again. Nothing else to really say about this card. It's a good card and it plays into our game plan. Now we're going to talk about Snatch. Snatch is a 0 for 4 that says when it hits, it draws a card. You can kill a Chromai with this, you can kill a Mirror Guy with this, and you still get the draw card. So it's actually pretty good into the Dromai matchup, but it's also a great card into the aggro mirrors because it allows you to put pressure on your opponent while pushing on hit effects that give you extra cards. Snatch is a great card, and generally this is where we want to use our Snapdragons to have Snatch with an on hit of Go Again. Artivore. Artivore is a staple of almost any ninja deck. Artivore is supported by playing multiple long chain links and getting value out of this. Normally, we want Artivore to be a 1 for 5 or 1 for 6 in our deck, but occasionally we have turns where Artivore is just a 1 for 4, depending on what our turn looks like. Salt the Wound. Salt the Wound is a card that can turn on Emberblade if you need it to by pitching to play it. It also blocks 3, but this is considered our best Mask of the Pouncing Lynx target that we're going to be looking for as often as we can. You want to utilize Mask of the Pouncing Lynx and Tiger Stripe Shuko all in one turn with Salt the Wound to be able to get as much value as you can out of the card. The last 3 cards in our main deck that we're going to talk about are all blues. Let's start by talking about Flying Kick. Blue Flying Kick is a great card because arsenaling it isn't the worst thing in the world if you draw it off of a Snatch and you don't have Go Again. It's also worth noting that Flying Kick is just a 2 for 5 in a lot when you have extra blues at the end of the game, which I think gives this card a lot of value, and it blocks 3. So blocking 3 and it actually being a 2 for 5 at the end of the game at blue is really solid. Soulbead Strike is a neat card. It's a blue 3 block, so it functions as far as our blue count is concerned, and it blocks efficiently. But against Dromai, you can throw this at a Chromai or a Kyloria and continue to kill dragons and keep your Go Again, because this says when it hits, it gains Go Again. That counts to dragons as well. It's a very big upside. And our last blue that I think is like honestly a lot better than more people are giving it credit for is Warmonger's Diplomacy. Warmonger's Diplomacy gives you a lot of edge into Azalea, and it can also help you in Bravo in certain situations, depending on what their hand looks like. Knowing that Warmonger's Diplomacy can really slow Azalea down gives us a turn to try and swing tempo and play into it. It's also worth noting that Warmonger's Diplomacy can be very good against Dashio, depending on what their hand looks like. Now let's take a look at our sideboard plan. First up, we have Command and Conquer. Command and Conquer has been a staple of Flesh and Blood pretty much since it's been around. Command and Conquer is a great card that serves as a popper in our sideboard for the Dromai matchup, and also helps us against Azalea to disrupt their arsenal, and any other decks that might look to arsenal cards pretty regularly. This card can also be played as an aggro card into a lot of matchups when you don't feel like Sink Below is where you want to be at. The next card we have up is Reinforce the Line. Reinforce the Line is not a card that every single person plays in the sideboard of their deck, but I'm a big fan of Reinforce the Line because I think Bravo is going to see a big uptick in the metagame with Dromai being popular, so I think Reinforce the Line is a staple moving forward. I have the 3rd copy of Rise from the Ashes in the sideboard. I really like Rise from the Ashes against Iyslander and any other kind of disruptive hero. I will say the one place that I really don't like Rise from the Ashes is against Red in the Ledger, so Azalea is like the key component you don't want Rise from the Ashes against, but Rise from the Ashes really plays well into Iyslander. Sink Below is a great card, and it's probably the most generic defense reaction that people can play. It's a 0 for 4 that lets you filter cards from your hand. I like this into a lot of aggro matchups where you're looking to block. I have my deck set up with a lot of like 3-block mid-rangey style cards, and Sink Below just plays better into that game plan and helps us keep that mid-range plan going while also helping us filter to take our big turns when they become available to us. Wax On is a little bit of a spicy one. I'm honestly expecting Ninja to have a pretty big uptick in the metagame as far as everything's concerned. I think Katsu and Fai are going to be pretty popular moving forward, and my tech for that is looking at Wax On. I really like Wax On because it helps block Lava Burst, Salt the Wound, Enlightened Strike, Snatch. It helps cover up a lot of the cards, and I don't really like Blazing Yoroi. That's a common question that I get asked. Next up, we have 2 copies of Energy Potion. Energy Potion is a great card, but it's really only here for Iyslander and Kano. I want it to be here to help me get through the blizzards, to help me like AB when I can and continue to have my turns. I'm only running AB1, you'll notice in my list, because I don't think that the key to beating Iyslander is actually having a lot of Arcane Barrier. I think the key to beating Iyslander is being able to play through Channel Lake Frigid and being able to play through Blizzard. Fiendal Spring Tunic is like, I mean, Tunic is Tunic, honestly. I like Tunic against Iyslander. I like Tunic against like grindier games. Like when you're playing a grindier, longer game where like you feel like you need resources. I play Tunic into Prism, and I like it against Kano, and I also like it against Iyslander. Mask of Momentum is something that I don't really utilize a lot in this deck, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. Mask of Momentum is a great equipment piece, but I have the deck set up as more of an Emberblade and Mask of the Pouncing Link style deck, but Mask of Momentum is also there to help us out if I ever feel like I need that help. Mask of Momentum is really great into Dromai. That's its #1 reason for being in the sideboard. And last but not least, we have Tide Flippers. Tide Flippers is a great card, and it basically serves as AB1 that can also give my Lava Burst and my Salt the Wounds go again if I really need them to in a really bad spot, but mostly this is there just for the extra Arcane Barrier. There were 2 honorable mention cards that I really wanted to fit into the list, but I just didn't feel like I was able to for certain reasons. First up on that list is Ancestral Empowerment. I really like Ancestral Empowerment against Bravo and Dash and like other decks that want to block. But based off the way our deck is configured, I really don't like Ancestral Empowerment that much, and it felt very awkward and clunky, and most of the time I just ended up blocking 3 with it. The other card that was an honorable mention for me was Breaking Point. Breaking Point is a card that I feel like stood out so well in Kodachi Fai, but it doesn't seem to have that same effect with Emberblade Fai. I feel like Breaking Point just ended up being a 1 for 5 that blocks 3 a lot, and if I was going to consider playing Breaking Point, I'd probably just play Take the Tempo instead. I've played 23 games on this specific list that I'm talking about, and through 23 games, I'm 17-6 so far. This deck feels like a great place to start moving into a Lexi-less world and to move into a new metagame with. Want to try the deck for yourself? Click on the link in the description below, and you'll get my full deck list with all of my matchup guides and notes inside of it. Think there's a card I left out or something that might be better in this deck? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear about what you might change about the list. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy, guys.